Welcome, dear friends, to a gentle journey through the world of Sword Art Online, an immersive universe where reality and the digital world blend into one. What began as a simple game of virtual reality MMORPGs has grown into a beloved saga that explores deep themes of love, survival, and the essence of humanity. Tonight, we will drift through the fascinating facts of this world, from the creation of Aincrad and the life changing battles fought within its towering walls, to the emotional journeys of its characters, whose connections to each other become their anchor in a world that feels so real, yet so far removed from our own. We'll explore the origins of Sword Art Online, the mechanics that shape its universe, and the rich multi layered narrative that has captured the hearts of millions since its debut. As you settle in, allow your body to relax, releasing any tension, and let the weight of the day gently fade away. Breathe deeply, softly, and allow yourself to be carried away on this peaceful journey. And if you enjoy drifting through stories like this, you're welcome to subscribe and softly tell me where you're listening from tonight. Now, let us begin our journey into the world of Sword Art Online. Fact 1. Sword Art Online, SAO, originated as a light novel series written by Reki Kawahara in 2002, initially starting as a web novel. Kawahara's inspiration came from his own experiences with online multiplayer games, and the idea of exploring virtual worlds became the heart of the narrative. SAO began its journey as a concept about a virtual reality MMORPG, which soon grew into a captivating tale blending sci-fi, adventure, and psychological drama. With its first official release in 2009, the story found its audience, eventually becoming a globally recognized phenomenon, spanning across anime, manga, video games, and even live-action adaptations. Fact 2. The first arc of Sword Art Online, known as the Aincrad arc, takes place in a massive floating castle with 100 floors, each housing dangerous dungeons and powerful bosses. Players in the game, trapped within the virtual world, must navigate these floors and defeat bosses to progress. The game's premise was simple: clear the 100th floor and escape. However, things take a dark turn when players discover that death in the game means death in real life. This shocking twist introduces the central conflict of the story, setting the tone for the intense emotional stakes that follow. Fact 3. Kirito, the protagonist, is introduced as a skilled player who once participated in the closed beta of SAO. When the game's creator, Akihiko Kayaba, traps players inside the game, Kirito's expertise becomes vital in navigating the deadly world. His initial loner personality reflects his tendency to prefer solitary play, avoiding connections with others, to shield himself from the emotional toll of the game. However, this changes as the narrative unfolds. Kirito's journey is defined by his ability to balance his solitary nature with the importance of forming bonds with others, something crucial for survival in this digital prison. Fact 4. Asuna, one of the central characters in the series, plays a pivotal role in shaping the emotional depth of the story. Initially introduced as a powerful and fierce player, she holds a prominent position within a guild known as the Knights of the Blood. Asuna is skilled with a rapier and is feared by many within the game. Her relationship with Kirito evolves from one of mutual respect to deep love. The emotional connection they form amidst the dire circumstances of their predicament stands as one of the core elements of Sword Art Online, driving much of the character development and drama throughout the series. Fact 5. The virtual world of Aincrad is designed with incredible attention to detail, making it feel as real as the physical world. Every floor, from the basic environments to the more intricate dungeons, is filled with vivid detail, making each area a unique experience for players. The design of Aincrad, with its medieval architecture and varied landscapes, creates a world where players can lose themselves, both physically and emotionally. The immersive nature of SAO contributes to the psychological struggles faced by its players, as they must learn to adapt to the virtual world's rules while confronting the harsh realities of their situation. Fact 6. The concept of the game over scenario in SAO has profound consequences. Unlike traditional MMORPGs, where characters respawn after death, SAO imposes a permanent death penalty. If a player dies in the game, they die in real life. This horrifying rule raises the stakes exponentially, as players must constantly face the very real possibility of death. It is this rule that forces Kirito and the other players to form alliances and strategize carefully, as every move could be their last. The psychological burden of this reality weighs heavily on the characters, adding emotional depth to their survival efforts. Fact 7. The introduction of other prominent characters, such as Klein, the leader of a small guild, further enriches the narrative. Klein represents a more grounded, human side of the players in SAO. His camaraderie with Kirito adds a layer of warmth and friendship to the otherwise tense and often somber atmosphere of the game. Klein's sense of responsibility toward his guild and his bond with Kirito underscore the theme of friendship in the series, showing that even in a life-threatening game, the connections between people can make all the difference in facing the unknown. Fact 8. A major aspect of Sword Art Online is its exploration of the relationship between the real world and the virtual world. The players trapped inside Aincrad are no longer able to differentiate between what is real and what is virtual. This blur of reality is further explored through the technological advancements within the story, such as the nerve gear, helmet, which directly interfaces with the brain. The immersion is so complete that the players experience sensations like hunger, pain, and exhaustion, making their journey inside the game feel just as real as life itself. This disconnect between reality and the virtual world serves as a central theme throughout the series. Fact 9. The concept of guilds within Sword Art Online plays a crucial role in the structure of the game. Guilds act as both support systems and communities within the game. Players often join guilds to survive, as they need to collaborate to clear floors and defeat bosses. The idea of unity and trust is at the forefront of these guilds, but as the series progresses, it becomes clear that betrayal and loss are constant threats. The guilds represent both the strength of human connection and the fragile nature of alliances in a world where survival is everything. Fact 10. One of the standout themes of Sword Art Online is the emotional toll that the game takes on its players. The longer they are trapped in the virtual world, the more they are disconnected from the real world, leading to feelings of isolation and despair. Characters must grapple with the trauma of being stuck in a world where death is permanent and time continues to pass in the real world, leaving their loved ones behind. The emotional stakes of SAO resonate with viewers and players alike, as it reflects the fears and struggles of maintaining relationships and sanity in an increasingly digital world. Part 2. The World of Aincrad Fact 11. Aincrad, the floating castle in Sword Art Online, is the central setting of the game and one of the most iconic virtual worlds in anime history. This colossal, 100-floor structure has a vast, intricate design, with each floor featuring unique landscapes, dungeons, and villages. From dense forests to high mountains, the environments vary greatly, creating a sense of awe and wonder for the players. The world is vast, yet dangerous, with the promise of a new world to explore on each floor. Each player's adventure is shaped by the floor they are on, adding a sense of progression and discovery. Fact 12. The floors of Aincrad are divided into distinct regions, each with its own theme and challenges. Some floors are designed with medieval architecture, while others feature natural, wild landscapes like forests, caves, or snowy plains. The first few floors have relatively easy monsters to fight, but as players ascend, they encounter more dangerous enemies, creating a constant sense of tension and danger. The progression through the floors is not just a physical challenge, but also a psychological one, as players realize that their survival depends not only on strength, but on their ability to adapt and form bonds with others. Fact 13. The architecture of Aincrad itself becomes a character in its own right, with its towering spires, massive bridges, and deep chasms. It's not just a backdrop for the story, but an ever-present reminder of the player's predicament. The imposing structure of the castle is both a prison and a challenge to the players, symbolizing their journey toward freedom. Every floor is designed with its own set of rules and obstacles, and navigating this ever-evolving maze of challenges requires not just strength, but intelligence and resourcefulness. The vertical design of the castle adds to the feeling of being trapped in a never-ending climb. Fact 14. Aincrad's design is more than just a collection of levels. It's a world brimming with life and detail. Towns, villages, and NPCs, the non-playable characters, are scattered across the floors, giving the world a sense of community and normalcy despite the underlying danger. Players can interact with these NPCs, who often have quests and stories of their own, adding to the richness of the virtual world. Some floors even feature entire villages, where players can rest, trade, and gather information. These places offer a brief respite from the chaos, but they also serve as a constant reminder that the players cannot escape their reality. Fact 15. The world of Aincrad isn't just vast in its size, but in its social complexity. Players often form alliances, join guilds, and work together to defeat powerful bosses. The sense of community is essential to surviving in this world. However, the fragility of these bonds becomes apparent as players begin to realize that not everyone can be trusted. Betrayal and rivalry seep into the narrative as guilds and individuals struggle for dominance and control. The darker side of human nature becomes a theme in Aincrad, showing that even in a world built for adventure, the threat of betrayal looms large. Fact 16. The beauty and danger of Aincrad are inextricably linked. On one hand, players are constantly in awe of the stunning views, the sunsets over the ocean, the towering castles, the dense forests. Yet on the other hand, each of these serene environments hides a dangerous threat. The monsters lurking within the dungeons and the unforgiving nature of the game's mechanics create a constant tension. The world is beautiful but deadly, and every step taken is a gamble, adding an ever-present sense of urgency and dread to the character's journey through the floors of Aincrad. Fact 17. One of the most striking features of Aincrad is its permanent time cycle. The day and night cycle within the game mirrors that of the real world, with a full 24-hour day. This adds a sense of realism to the game world, making it feel like a living, breathing place. The passage of time becomes symbolic of the characters' growing struggles and experiences. The characters age, form relationships, and evolve emotionally as time progresses, all while being trapped in a world where the days feel like they stretch endlessly. The beauty of Aincrad, with its changing skies and landscapes, contrasts deeply with the despair of the player's situation. Fact 18. The bosses in SAO are the ultimate test of a player's strength and strategy. Each floor of Aincrad culminates in a boss battle where players must band together to face a formidable opponent. These battles are often grueling, requiring not only individual skill, but teamwork and strategy. The emotional weight of these encounters is profound, as failure means death in the real world. As the players advance, the difficulty of these battles increases, forcing the characters to evolve and adapt to ever harder challenges. The sense of camaraderie and the bond formed in these moments becomes one of the central emotional experiences in the series. Fact 19. The concept of clearing the game, defeating all the bosses on each floor to reach the top, is what drives the players forward. However, as the series progresses, it becomes clear that this goal is not just about survival. It represents hope, resilience, and the desire to overcome the impossible. Players cling to the hope that if they can clear enough floors, they will eventually escape the game and return to the real world. This goal becomes a metaphor for the human spirit's desire to overcome adversity, no matter how insurmountable the challenge may seem. Fact 20. The feeling of isolation in Aincrad is ever present. While the game world is filled with other players, the knowledge that they are all trapped in a life or death scenario creates a sense of loneliness. Even with the bonds formed between players, a deep sense of alienation persists. The players are cut off from the real world, unable to communicate with their families or friends outside of the game. This disconnection from reality creates an emotional and psychological strain as characters must navigate their feelings of homesickness, fear, and loss while remaining focused on the ultimate goal of escaping Aincrad. Fact 21. The concept of guilds within Sword Art Online is central to the storyline. Guilds, which are organized groups of players with shared goals, form communities where trust and cooperation are key to surviving and advancing through the game's 100 floors. One of the most notable guilds is the Knights of the Blood, led by Asuna. The guild's primary goal is to clear the game, but it also represents a family for its members, offering them a sense of belonging in a world that has no real escape. This sense of camaraderie forms the emotional backbone of many of the players' journeys. Fact 22. One of the emotional high points of Sword Art Online comes from the bonds formed between the main characters and the guilds they join. In particular, Asuna and Kirito's connection is formed within the context of guild membership, but it becomes far more personal as they grow closer. The guilds not only represent strength in numbers, but also become a means of emotional support in a life or death scenario. Players rely on each other for survival, but they also find friendship, love, and purpose in a virtual world where the stakes are higher than anyone could have anticipated. Fact 23. The Black Cats is a guild that stands in stark contrast to the Knights of the Blood. A smaller, less experienced guild, they are made up of players who are still struggling to find their place in the world of Aincrad. Their tragic downfall is a turning point in Kirito's journey, highlighting the brutal nature of the game. Their story reflects the delicate nature of alliances in SAO, showing that even the tightest knit groups can be torn apart in an instant. This guild's tragedy serves as a reminder of the high emotional stakes in the virtual world, where nothing is guaranteed. Fact 24. While guilds are formed to provide safety in numbers, they also introduce the theme of betrayal. Not all players in SAO are motivated by the desire to escape. Some players become more focused on personal gain, and this often leads to conflicts within guilds. The complexity of human nature is revealed as the series progresses, with characters struggling with self interest, survival, and the morality of their actions. The guilds, though meant to foster unity, often become battlegrounds for personal agendas, showing how the human spirit can both rise and falter under pressure. Fact 25. Another significant guild is the Moonlit Black Cats, a guild that falls victim to the harsh realities of the game. After losing members to a boss fight gone wrong, Kurito learns firsthand the dangers of being too trusting within a guild. This tragic event shakes him deeply, emphasizing the emotional cost of the game and the fine line between cooperation and risk. The death of these guild members haunts Kirito, shaping his future decisions and relationships in the game. The guild's fall symbolizes the fleeting nature of safety in SAO, where loyalty and bonds are often tested by life and death circumstances. Fact 26. While guilds offer protection, the structure of SAO itself is unforgiving. Players are constantly at risk of death, and the game's design doesn't allow for respawn or second chances. Death in SAO is permanent, and this rule makes the game a psychological battlefield. Players must balance their desire for safety with the constant need to advance, knowing that even the smallest mistake could be their last. This mechanic shapes the player's approach to every battle, every encounter, and every moment in the game, adding to the story's tension and emotional depth. Fact 27. The emotional impact of these mechanics extends beyond the players themselves. Families of the players in the real world also suffer. The story occasionally touches on the emotional toll on those who are left behind, unable to contact or communicate with the players trapped in the game. The psychological weight of being cut off from loved ones in such a life or death scenario adds a layer of tragedy to the story. The characters, while navigating the game's challenges, also have to cope with the grief and longing of being separated from the real world. Fact 28. The Aincrad Liberation Front, ALF, is another guild that plays a significant role in the narrative, though it takes a different approach to the game's rules. The ALF is focused on the idea of freedom within the game, attempting to challenge the control that the higher floors have over the players. They represent a faction of players who are disillusioned by the notion of relying on guilds and seek to break away from the established system. This conflict of ideologies highlights the different ways players cope with the emotional toll of the game, from rebellion to resignation. Fact 29. As the narrative progresses, the importance of leadership within guilds becomes more apparent. Characters like Asuna, who rise to positions of power, often find themselves torn between their duties as leaders and their personal desires. Asuna's rise within the Knights of the Blood is a central aspect of her character's growth. She must balance the welfare of her guild with her relationship with Kirito, as well as her internal struggle with the weight of leadership. Her development as both a leader and an individual adds complexity to her character, highlighting the emotional cost of responsibility. Fact 30. Despite that often dark and dangerous world of Aincrad, moments of warmth and hope shine through, particularly in the relationships forged within guilds. These bonds are central to the player's survival, and their ability to trust one another in such an uncertain world is a testament to the strength of human connection. The guilds in SAO are not just groups of people trying to survive, they become families, and the loss of these families is felt deeply. The emotional resonance of the guild system is what makes the stakes so high in the world of SAO. Fact 31. Kirito's growth as a character is deeply intertwined with the guilds he becomes involved with. Initially a lone wolf, he gradually learns the value of cooperation and trust. His journey from solitude to solidarity mirrors the emotional arc of the story itself. The relationships he forms with guild members and fellow players are essential to his development, showing that even in the most trying of circumstances, human connections are vital. As Kirito's understanding of the importance of teamwork deepens, so does his emotional resilience, adding depth to his character as he faces increasingly difficult challenges. Fact 32. The presence of guilds also introduces a subtle critique of the game's design. As players are forced into alliances and hierarchies, they are forced to confront their personal values. Some guilds function more like businesses or militaries, while others are built on mutual respect and friendship. The story examines how these different structures affect players, showing that not all guilds are created equal. The emotional undercurrents of these dynamics often drive conflicts within the story as players struggle with issues of loyalty, control, and personal freedom. Fact 33. The complexity of the guild system in SAO is also reflected in the diversity of player personalities. While some players thrive in the hierarchical structure of a guild, others are more independent and resent the constraints of groupthink. This tension adds depth to the story, as players must decide whether to conform to the expectations of their guild or to carve out their own path. The diverse array of guilds and the motivations behind them offer a rich tapestry of conflict and cooperation that drives much of the narrative forward. Fact 34. A recurring theme in SAO is the idea of identity and how it is shaped by the virtual world. Players enter Aincrad as versions of themselves, but are also given the opportunity to reinvent themselves through the game. Guild membership often becomes a way to define one's identity within the game, as players seek roles and relationships that reflect their personal values. This exploration of identity is especially relevant as the characters become more emotionally attached to their avatars, creating a psychological blur between the real world and the virtual one. Fact 35. As the players advance through Aincrad, they begin to understand that their identity within the game is as complex as it is in the real world. Guilds play a significant role in shaping how players perceive themselves and are perceived by others. As players progress and gain notoriety, they must come to terms with the responsibilities and expectations placed upon them. The emotional toll of being thrust into the spotlight within their guilds often forces characters to reevaluate their motivations and values. Fact 36. The emotional struggles faced by characters in SAO also extend to the loss of guildmates. As the game progresses and the difficulty of the challenges increases, players begin to lose friends and allies. The death of a guild member is particularly devastating, as it represents the fragility of their shared mission. The emotional weight of these losses is compounded by the fact that death in SAO is permanent, and players must deal with the grief of losing those they care about while still fighting for their survival. Fact 37. SAO is not just about physical survival, but emotional survival as well. Guilds provide a sense of belonging, but they also present a constant reminder of what is at stake. As players form bonds, they must confront the possibility of losing those they have come to care for. The guild's role in fostering relationships and the emotional connections between players is essential to understanding the deeper themes of the series, where love, loss, and the struggle for survival become inextricably intertwined. Fact 38. In the virtual world of Aincrad, the role of a guild is not just to clear floors, but to protect the emotional well-being of its members. Guilds become safe havens for players who are otherwise isolated and lost. They represent the possibility of hope in a world where death is always looming. As the series progresses, the importance of these guilds becomes more apparent as characters learn to rely on each other not just for survival, but for emotional and psychological support as well. Fact 39. In addition to the physical challenges of the game, players must also confront the mental and emotional battles that come with being trapped in Aincrad. The guilds are crucial to helping players cope with these struggles. They provide a sense of purpose, security, and camaraderie that becomes essential for emotional survival. As players develop and form deeper connections within their guilds, they learn that survival in SAO requires more than just combat skills. It requires emotional resilience and the ability to trust and depend on others. Fact 40. The emotional core of SAO lies in its portrayal of relationships, whether within guilds or between individual characters. As players like Kirito and Asuna evolve, they begin to see that the bonds formed in the game are as real and meaningful as those in the outside world. The guilds serve as the emotional framework through which characters learn, grow, and survive, and their evolution is a testament to the importance of human connection, even in the most dire circumstances. Fact 41. As the players of Sword Art Online ascend through the floors of Aincrad, they not only grow in strength, but also in their understanding of the virtual world and their place within it. The progression of each floor becomes symbolic of the internal journey each character undergoes. The more they advance, the more they realize that the game's challenges are not just external, but emotional as well. The deeper players move into the game's structure, the more they must confront their own fears, desires, and limitations. This internal growth adds layers of complexity to each character's journey. Fact 42. The story of Sword Art Online is not just one of survival, but one of the transformation of the human spirit. As players spend more time in the game, they are forced to adapt not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. The emotional changes within the characters are profound. Some grow stronger, while others break under the pressure. The game becomes a testing ground for the resilience of the human spirit, where the desire for connection, survival, and freedom shape the character's decisions and relationships. The progression through each floor symbolizes the emotional progress of the players. Fact 43: the role of Sword Art Online's antagonist, Akihiko Kayaba, is crucial to understanding the themes of control, freedom, and human nature within the game. As the game's creator and the mastermind behind trapping the players inside the virtual world, Kayaba represents an ultimate test of human endurance. His creation of Aincrad is not just about creating a game, but about controlling the lives of the players. He becomes a figure whose motivations are complex, as his actions raise philosophical questions about the nature of freedom, control, and the consequences of manipulating others for the sake of one's own vision. Fact 44: the emotional and psychological toll of being trapped in Sword Art Online extends beyond the immediate consequences of the game. Players often grapple with the trauma of not just their own experiences within the game, but the fear of what has happened to their loved ones in the real world. The separation from their families and friends adds a layer of grief that compounds their already dangerous situation. Characters like Kirito, Asuna, and others must confront this emotional burden as they fight for survival, all while coping with the deep, underlying loneliness that comes with being trapped in a virtual prison. Fact 45: Sword Art Online's portrayal of death has a unique psychological component. Unlike most stories, where death is either permanent or temporary in a fictional world, in SAO, death is truly permanent. If a player dies in the game, they die in real life. This rule is a constant presence, weighing heavily on the characters as they face powerful enemies and make life or death decisions. It serves as a reminder that every action they take has real consequences. This idea of permanent death adds an emotional intensity to the character's actions and decisions, intensifying the stakes and the tension within the game. Fact 46: in addition to the larger world building, Sword Art Online also explores the microcosms within Aincrad, how individual characters interact with one another and form bonds. As players form relationships and work together to overcome obstacles, they discover that the key to survival is not just strength, but trust and cooperation. Characters like Kirito and Asuna learn the importance of leaning on others for emotional support and survival. The game, though a deadly prison, is also a place where characters come to understand their own emotional vulnerabilities and how to rely on those they care about. Fact 47: Sword Art Online delves into the concept of self identity, particularly through the lens of virtual reality. While trapped in Aincrad, players begin to question who they really are. The line between the real world and the virtual world blurs as they spend more time in the game. For many players, their avatar becomes an extension of themselves, leading to an internal struggle to reconcile their virtual identity with their real life one. This psychological exploration is a key theme in SOO, showing how the virtual world shapes the characters' perceptions of themselves and their roles in the real world. Fact 48: as Kirito and Asuna's relationship evolves, it becomes more than just a love story. It is a story of emotional survival. Their bond provides them with a source of strength that helps them push through the darkest moments of the game. Their love, forged in the fires of adversity, represents the deep human need for connection. Throughout the series, their relationship serves as an anchor for both characters, reminding them that even in the most perilous of situations, love and trust can provide a lifeline, a beacon of hope amidst the chaos of Aincrad. Fact 49. The psychological effects of being trapped in a digital world like Aincrad are profound. Players must constantly battle feelings of despair, isolation, and frustration. The longer they are trapped, the more disconnected they become from the real world. This emotional dissonance is explored deeply throughout the series as the players begin to lose touch with their lives outside of the game. The emotional toll of this isolation is not just felt by the main characters, but by everyone who has been trapped in the virtual world, highlighting the deep psychological scars that result from the experience. Fact 50. The concept of reality versus illusion is one of the overarching themes of Sword Art Online. As the characters spend more time within the virtual world, they begin to lose track of what is real. The sense of immersion is so strong that it feels like the player's real world identities are merging with their avatars. The emotional and mental impact of this blending of realities raises complex questions about the nature of consciousness and identity. Are the bonds formed within Aincrad any less real than those in the real world? Sword Art Online asks these profound questions as it explores the intersection of technology, reality, and human emotion. Fact 51. As Sword Art Online continues, the notion of trapped in a game evolves beyond just physical survival into a profound psychological experience. As the players rise through the floors, they start grappling with the emotional and mental strain of being cut off from the real world. Characters experience a deep sense of longing for their homes, families, and the world they left behind. Their struggle becomes a fight, not just to survive in the game, but to retain their sense of identity and humanity in a place that often feels more real than the world outside their minds. Fact 52. As Kirito and Asuna grow closer, they begin to question what it means to love and survive in a world where death is permanent. Their relationship is tested by the constant danger surrounding them, yet it also becomes a source of strength. The emotional intensity of their connection emphasizes the idea that love can thrive even in the most dire situations. Their bond becomes a vital emotional anchor, offering them a sense of hope in a world filled with violence, uncertainty, and loss. This theme highlights how personal relationships are integral to surviving such a harsh reality. Fact 53. In the world of Aincrad, the concept of fear and overcoming it is explored in a very intimate way. Players who enter the game are forced to confront not only the fear of death, but also the fear of losing their identity. The game constantly tests the characters, not just through physical threats, but emotional ones. They must learn to trust others, to form bonds, and to rely on those bonds to keep their sanity intact. The psychological toll of this experience is immense as the players confront their deepest fears about isolation, failure, and the fragility of life itself. Fact 54. In the early floors of Aincrad, the players are relatively safe and the monsters they face are manageable. However, as they progress, the difficulty increases dramatically. This escalates not only the physical challenges they must overcome, but also the mental strain. The pressure to survive becomes overwhelming, and as the players begin to face stronger foes and more complex dungeons, their relationships are tested. Guilds and alliances are strained, and the emotional cost of progressing becomes ever more apparent. Each floor represents more than just a level to clear. It represents another emotional and psychological hurdle to overcome. Fact 55. One of the most powerful themes in Sword Art Online is the idea of personal growth through adversity. The players, especially Kirito and Asuna, are forced to confront their deepest vulnerabilities and grow from them. Kirito, in particular, begins the story as a lone wolf, preferring to handle everything himself. However, as the series progresses, he learns to trust others, form meaningful relationships, and become a leader in his own right. This emotional growth is mirrored in Asuna as well, who starts off as a powerful, independent player, but learns to value her connection with others and find strength in love and partnership. Fact 56. The progression of the storyline in Sword Art Online does more than simply explore the game's mechanics and its characters' journey to escape. It also delves deeply into the moral and philosophical implications of virtual reality. The players in SAO are not simply trying to survive, they are living in a world where every action has lasting consequences. The story continually asks what it means to live, to love, and to fight for freedom in a world where those things are not guaranteed. It raises the question: if a world is as real as the feelings it evokes, what makes it any less genuine? Fact 57. The guilds in Sword Art Online play a central role not just in combat, but in the emotional development of the characters. These guilds represent the communities that the players form as they fight for survival. They are a place of belonging, a source of comfort in a world filled with constant danger. For many players, these guilds become a family. However, as the series progresses, the guilds also reveal the darker sides of human nature: betrayal, ambition, and the struggle for power. These complex dynamics add depth to the story, showing that survival in Aincrad isn't just about defeating monsters, it's about maintaining one's humanity. Fact 58. In addition to exploring themes of survival and personal growth, Sword Art Online also examines the role of technology in shaping human experiences. The nerve gear, which connects players to the virtual world, represents a groundbreaking technological leap. However, the very device that allows for such immersive experiences is also what traps the players in a world from which they cannot escape. The show raises important questions about the ethical implications of such technology, about what it means for human consciousness to be so deeply entwined with virtual spaces, and what happens when this technology is misused. Fact 59. The psychological effects of being trapped in a virtual world are felt by all players in Sword Art Online. While some characters cope with their situation through sheer determination or by forming strong bonds with others, others break under the pressure. The emotional journey of each character highlights how people react differently to trauma and isolation. The game doesn't just test the character's ability to fight, it tests their resilience, their ability to trust, and their ability to retain hope. The mental and emotional toll of being trapped in Aincrad is as significant as the physical challenges the characters face. Fact 60. The ultimate goal for the players of Sword Art Online is to clear the game and escape back to the real world. However, as they progress through the game, this goal becomes more than just a mission. It becomes a symbol of their survival. Every floor they clear is a testament to their resilience, their emotional and physical strength, and their ability to adapt to a world where death is permanent. The process of clearing Aincrad becomes a metaphor for overcoming life's greatest challenges, proving that no matter how overwhelming the circumstances, there is always hope for those who refuse to give up. Fact 61. One of the key moments in the series is the decision by some players to give up on the idea of escaping the game altogether. As the players advance through the floors, they realize that for some, the world of Aincrad has become their reality. The thought of returning to the real world, with its own struggles and uncertainties, becomes less appealing. For these characters, the virtual world offers a sense of purpose and stability that the real world cannot provide. This philosophical shift in the characters' perceptions raises important questions about identity, belonging, and the nature of reality itself. Fact 62. In Sword Art Online, players often face the choice between focusing on personal survival or prioritizing the greater good. The balance between these two ideals is tested time and time again, especially as characters form relationships and guilds. Kirito, in particular, struggles with this balance. He begins the game alone, driven by the need to escape, but as he grows closer to others, he learns that true survival often requires selflessness. This theme of sacrifice and personal responsibility runs throughout the story, highlighting the emotional growth that occurs as characters evolve from self centered individuals to members of a larger supportive community. Fact 63. The role of leadership within the guilds is another central theme in Sword Art Online. Asuna, who starts as a top player in the game, becomes a leader within the Knights of the Blood. Her leadership is tested repeatedly as the guild faces the pressures of clearing floors and dealing with internal conflicts. The way she leads her guildmates reflects her own emotional growth, as she learns to balance her strong sense of duty with her growing emotional connection to Kirito and the other players. Leadership in Aincrad is not just about power, it's about empathy, understanding, and the ability to guide others through uncertainty. Fact 64. A significant turning point in the series occurs when Kirito and Asuna, after facing so many trials together, realize that the emotional weight of their shared experiences has solidified their bond. This realization is not just about their growing love for each other, but also about their emotional survival within the game. Their connection becomes a source of strength that allows them to keep pushing forward, even in the face of insurmountable odds. Their love story becomes a symbol of the resilience of the human spirit, showing that in even the darkest of times, emotional connection can light the way forward. Fact 65. In Sword Art Online, the presence of NPCs, non-playable characters, further deepens the philosophical themes of the show. These characters are programmed to behave like humans, but the question arises, do they have consciousness? So, as the story progresses, some players begin to question whether these NPCs are truly alive, or if they are simply sophisticated programs designed to mimic real human behavior. This theme explores the nature of sentience and consciousness, raising deep questions about the morality of creating virtual beings that experience emotions and possess intelligence, even if their reality is constructed within a digital world. Fact 66. As the players of Sword Art Online ascend the floors of Aincrad, the stakes grow higher and the risks more apparent. With each new level comes a greater sense of urgency, as the players not only face more powerful monsters and bosses, but also deeper emotional challenges. Characters must contend with their fears, their losses, and the crushing weight of time passing in the real world. The psychological toll of these battles becomes evident as players struggle to maintain their mental well being while navigating a virtual world where their lives are constantly in jeopardy. This emotional struggle underscores the stakes. Fact 67. Throughout Sword Art Online, the theme of personal sacrifice plays a significant role. Characters are often forced to make difficult choices, weighing the safety of the many against the well being of the few. This is particularly evident in Kirito's decisions as he strives to protect those he cares about, even at the expense of his own safety. His journey reflects the internal conflict between selfish desires and selfless actions, showing that true heroism often requires personal sacrifice. The idea of sacrificing one's personal comfort for the greater good is an emotional theme that resonates throughout the series. Fact 68. The emotional depth of Sword Art Online is enhanced by the relationships formed between characters, particularly the friendships that develop in the guilds. The players are often forced to rely on one another, not just for physical survival, but for emotional support. These relationships become lifelines in a world where the threat of death is ever present. The emotional bonds that form in the game represent the humanity that persists even in the most inhuman of circumstances. These relationships help the characters maintain their sense of self and their will to survive, making the story a journey not just of survival, but of emotional endurance. Fact 69. One of the most profound aspects of Sword Art Online is its exploration of the concept of time. While the players are trapped in Aincrad, time continues to pass in the real world, creating a sense of detachment and longing for home. This passage of time is felt deeply by the characters as they grapple with the fear of missing out on the lives they left behind. Relationships with loved ones are left in limbo, and the emotional toll of being cut off from the real world is a central theme of the series. Time becomes both a tool for survival and a force that divides the characters from reality. Fact 70. While the game mechanics in Sword Art Online provide the framework for the story, the emotional and psychological aspects are just as crucial. The game's fatal rule, that death in the game means death in real life, forces players to approach every decision with immense caution. As the story progresses, the characters begin to question their sense of reality and identity. Are they still the same person they were before they entered Aincrad? The game challenges the players to confront not just external dangers, but internal fears and insecurities, forcing them to grow emotionally and psychologically in ways they never anticipated. Fact 71. The complex nature of Sword Art Online's virtual world is also reflected in its exploration of virtual economies. In a world where real world resources are inaccessible, players must navigate the in game economy to survive. Currency, crafting, and trade become crucial aspects of the game, adding a layer of realism to the story. However, this economic system also introduces corruption and greed, as some players use the system for personal gain, while others are left to struggle. The economic landscape of Aincrad mirrors the struggles of real world societies, where inequality and selfishness can have a profound impact on relationships and survival. Fact 72. In addition to its exploration of virtual economies, Sword Art Online also touches on the theme of memory. The players, once trapped in Aincrad, must constantly confront the idea that their memories of the real world may fade with time. As the days in the virtual world pass, the players begin to question their sense of self. Are their memories of the real world just as vivid and real as their experiences in the game? The loss of memory and the erosion of one's identity are significant themes in the series, exploring the delicate nature of both virtual and real experiences. Fact 73. A key moment in the story occurs when Kirito and Asuna realize that their relationship is not just a means of survival, it is their anchor in the game. Their love becomes a lifeline, allowing them to endure the psychological and emotional toll of being trapped in Aincrad. The strength of their connection provides them with a sense of purpose and a reason to continue fighting. In a world where death is permanent, love is a force that transcends the boundaries of the virtual world, offering them a chance at hope and redemption, even in the darkest of times. Fact 74. The presence of other players in Sword Art Online creates a complex web of alliances, conflicts, and relationships. Some players are motivated by the desire to escape, while others have become disillusioned with the idea of leaving. This divergence of goals creates tension within the game as players' priorities clash. The emotional complexity of these relationships adds depth to the narrative, showing that the human experience in a virtual world is as varied and intricate as it is in the real world. The players must navigate not only the game's dangers, but also the emotional challenges of living in a world where everyone's motives differ. Fact 75. The evolution of the characters in Sword Art Online is deeply influenced by their relationships with others. As Kirito and Asuna continue to work together, they begin to understand the importance of relying on others, even as they face overwhelming challenges. Their relationship, which begins as one of mutual respect and trust, evolves into one of love and partnership. The story highlights how personal growth is often catalyzed by the relationships we form with others, and that the strength of these relationships is often what enables us to face even the most difficult of challenges. Fact 76. The virtual reality aspect of Sword Art Online challenges the characters' perceptions of what is real. As they live in a world that feels more tangible than their physical world, they begin to question the value of their real lives. Many of the characters, especially those who have spent a long time in the game, experience a deep sense of disorientation when confronted with the idea of returning to reality. The series explores the idea that what we perceive as real can be shaped by our emotions and experiences, raising questions about the nature of existence itself. Fact 77. The themes of freedom and control are central to Sword Art Online, with the players constantly grappling with their ability to escape Aincrad and regain control over their lives. The game's creator, Akihiko Kayaba, controls the player's fate by trapping them in the game, and this loss of autonomy becomes a major source of conflict. The players must confront the emotional and psychological effects of living under such control and learn to navigate the system in order to regain their freedom. The theme of escaping from a controlling system resonates with real world struggles for autonomy and independence. Fact 78. Throughout the story, the players are forced to confront their own fears and limitations. The world of Aincrad is filled with danger, and each new floor presents more formidable challenges. However, the true battle is not just with the monsters in the game, but with the characters' internal struggles. Many of the players must overcome their own doubts, fears, and insecurities in order to survive and escape. This internal growth is just as significant as their physical battles, highlighting the psychological journey that the characters undertake as they learn to cope with the harsh realities of the game. Fact 79. The role of leadership in Sword Art Online is explored through characters like Asuna, who becomes a leader within her guild, and Kirito, who takes on a more prominent leadership role as the story progresses. Leadership in the game is not just about tactical skill, it's about emotional intelligence and the ability to inspire trust and cooperation among others. As Kirito and Asuna grow into their leadership roles, they learn that true leadership is about understanding the needs of others, offering support, and making decisions that are in the best interest of the group. This evolution of leadership is integral to their character arcs. The final theme of Sword Art Online is one of hope and redemption. Despite the overwhelming odds and the constant threat of death, the players continue to fight for their freedom and survival. The story is ultimately about overcoming the darkness of the virtual world and finding a way to reclaim the light. Whether through love, friendship, or personal growth, the characters learn that even in the most hopeless of situations, there is always a way forward. The series concludes with a message of resilience, showing that no matter how dire the circumstances, hope can always be found in the bonds we share with others. Fact 81. As Sword Art Online progresses, the emotional struggles of the characters become increasingly complex. Kirito, Asuna, and the others are not just fighting for their survival in the game, they are also fighting for a sense of identity and purpose. The trauma of being trapped in a virtual world for so long begins to take its toll, and characters must grapple with the uncertainty of whether they will ever return to their real lives. The psychological cost of being trapped in a digital prison is reflected in the way they interact with each other, with both trust and fear playing significant roles. Fact 82. In addition to the emotional and psychological struggles, Sword Art Online explores the concept of time, particularly how it affects the players' relationships. Time in the real world continues to pass, but for those trapped in Aincrad, time seems to stand still. Relationships evolve at an accelerated pace in the game, and characters form deep bonds quickly, knowing that their time together could be cut short at any moment. This theme of fleeting time adds a sense of urgency to their emotional journeys, reminding them that every moment is precious and that love, friendship, and connections are not guaranteed to last. Fact 83. The conflict between the real world and the virtual world is at the heart of Sword Art Online. As the players become more entrenched in Aincrad, they begin to lose touch with the world they left behind. Memories of their families and friends in the real world start to fade, and the virtual world becomes their reality. This blurring of the lines between real and virtual is particularly evident in characters like Kirito and Asuna, who struggle with the tension between their desire to escape and their growing emotional attachments to each other and the world of Aincrad itself. Fact 84. As Sword Art Online continues, the focus on the player's mental and emotional growth becomes even more pronounced. Each character's journey is a process of self-discovery as they confront their fears, desires, and insecurities. Kirito, who begins the series as a solitary figure, learns the value of working with others and forming emotional bonds. Asuna, who starts as a strong leader, learns to balance her responsibilities with her personal desires. Their journeys mirror each other, showing that true growth comes not just from external achievements, but from the ability to connect with others and face one's inner turmoil. Fact 85. One of the most poignant aspects of Sword Art Online is the impact that the game has on the player's sense of reality. For some, Aincrad becomes a refuge, a place where they can escape from the struggles and hardships of the real world. For others, it becomes a prison, a constant reminder of the life they once knew and the life they've lost. The emotional toll of being trapped in a digital world for so long is profound, and the characters must reconcile their feelings of grief, loss, and hope as they continue their journey to escape. Fact 86. The theme of sacrifice is prevalent throughout Sword Art Online. As the characters progress through the game, they are faced with difficult decisions that often require them to sacrifice their own safety for the well being of others. Kirito and Asuna, in particular, embody this theme as they make choices that put their lives at risk for the sake of their friends and guildmates. The emotional weight of these sacrifices is felt deeply by the characters as they come to understand that survival is not just about physical strength, but about the willingness to protect others, even at great personal cost. Fact 87. The concept of freedom and control is explored deeply in Sword Art Online. As the players fight to escape Aincrad, they are confronted with the harsh reality that their freedom is not entirely in their hands. The game's creator, Akihiko Kayaba, controls their fate, and the players are forced to navigate a world where their actions are often limited by the rules of the game. This struggle for freedom becomes a central theme as the characters fight not only for their survival, but for their autonomy in a world where they are controlled by forces beyond their control. Fact 88. The emotional and psychological stakes of Sword Art Online are heightened by the sense of isolation that pervades the game. While players form connections with others in Aincrad, they are still fundamentally alone in their experience. The fear of being forgotten, the fear of losing connections with loved ones, and the fear of being trapped forever in a virtual world all contribute to the emotional weight of the story. The characters' struggles to maintain their sense of self and their relationships in the face of these fears are central to the emotional impact of the series. Fact 89. Sword Art Online also explores the theme of what it means to truly live. As the players face the constant threat of death, they must confront the idea that survival is not just about staying alive, but about living meaningfully. The game forces them to reevaluate their priorities, their relationships, and their understanding of what it means to be human. This theme is particularly evident in Kirito's evolution as a character, as he learns that survival is not just about avoiding death, but about forming connections, embracing love, and growing as a person. Fact 90. The concept of heroism in Sword Art Online is not just about physical strength or combat skills. It's about emotional courage and the willingness to face one's deepest fears. The true heroes of SAO are not just those who fight on the front lines, but those who show emotional resilience, who protect and support their friends, and who continue to fight for a future where they can return to the real world. Kirito, Asuna, and the other characters demonstrate that heroism is not just about defeating enemies, but about the strength to face overwhelming emotional challenges and continue pushing forward. Fact 91. As the story unfolds, Sword Art Online delves into the idea of leadership and the responsibility that comes with it. Asuna's role as a leader in the Knights of the Blood Guild becomes a significant part of her character's development. Her journey as a leader is shaped by the emotional and psychological challenges she faces, both in the game and in her personal life. Her growth as a leader reflects the series' larger themes of self discovery, sacrifice, and the importance of protecting those you care about, even when it means making difficult choices. Fact 92. The world of Aincrad is not just a physical space, it is a psychological space that forces the players to confront their own emotions and limitations. The game's design, with its ever present danger and escalating challenges, acts as a metaphor for the obstacles we face in life. As the players advance through the game, they must confront not only external threats, but also their own fears, doubts, and vulnerabilities. The virtual world of Aincrad becomes a reflection of the character's inner struggles, showing that the true battles in life are often fought within ourselves. Fact 93. As the series progresses, the role of technology in shaping the players' lives becomes more pronounced. The nerve gear technology that traps the players in SAO is both a blessing and a curse. While it provides an immersive and lifelike experience, it also traps the characters in a digital prison. This duality reflects the way technology can both enhance and complicate human life, raising important ethical questions about the use of virtual reality and the consequences of creating technology that has the potential to control and manipulate human consciousness. Fact 94. One of the most profound moments in Sword Art Online comes when Kirito and Asuna are faced with the reality that their time in the game is running out. As they become more emotionally attached to each other and to their fellow players, the stakes of the game become not just about escape, but about the relationships they've formed. The question of whether they will ever see the real world again becomes secondary to the bonds they've created. Their journey through Aincrad becomes not just a quest for survival, but a search for meaning and connection in a world that is turned upside down. Fact 95. In Sword Art Online, death is not just a physical threat, it is a profound emotional experience. The loss of a guildmate, a friend, or even an enemy carries significant emotional weight. The game's fatal rule, that death in the game means death in real life, adds a layer of tragedy to every encounter. The players are constantly reminded of the fragility of life, and the emotional toll of losing someone is felt deeply by all the characters. This theme of loss is a central part of the series, showing that the emotional impact of death extends far beyond the virtual world. Fact 96. Sword Art Online is ultimately a story about hope. Hope that the players will escape, hope that they will survive, and hope that they will find a way back to the real world. Throughout the series, the characters are faced with insurmountable odds and overwhelming challenges. Yet they continue to fight, not just for their own survival, but for the possibility of a future where they can live freely again. This sense of hope, even in the darkest moments, is what drives the characters forward and gives them the strength to face their fears and their struggles. Fact 97. The series' conclusion offers a so powerful message about the nature of human connection. While the players of Sword Art Online are physically trapped in a digital world, they are not alone. The bonds they form with each other become their lifeline, and these connections prove to be more powerful than any weapon or skill. The final moments of the series emphasize the importance of love, friendship, and trust, showing that even in a world where everything seems uncertain, the relationships we build with others are what give life its true meaning. Fact 98. Throughout the series, the characters are forced to redefine what it means to be alive. In Aincrad, they experience all the joys and sorrows of life, from falling in love to facing death. The virtual world becomes a space where they can explore their deepest fears, desires, and emotions, and the lessons they learn shape their journey. Ultimately, Sword Art Online is about the human condition, about the resilience of the human spirit, and about the strength we find in connection with others, even when the world around us seems to be falling apart. Fact 99. The legacy of Sword Art Online extends far beyond the world of Aincrad. The series has inspired a generation of fans, sparking discussions about the nature of virtual reality, the ethical implications of immersive technology, and the future of gaming. The themes of love, loss, and hope resonate with audiences across the world, showing that despite the digital nature of the game, the emotional core of the story is deeply human. Sword Art Online continues to be a cultural touchstone, reminding us of the power of connection and the potential of technology to both challenge and enrich our lives. Fact 100. In the end, Sword Art Online is not just about escaping a virtual world, it's about understanding what it means to live, to love, and to survive. The journey through Aincrad is a metaphor for the journey we all face in life. The struggles, the sacrifices, the moments of despair, and the triumphs. The story shows that no matter how difficult life may be, the connections we form with others, the love we share, and the hope we hold on to can help us overcome even the darkest of challenges. The series ends with a sense of closure, but also with the knowledge that the journey is never truly over. Fact 101. Throughout Sword Art Online, the game's design plays a major role in shaping the characters' experiences. The developers intentionally created a virtual world that felt as real as possible, using the nerve gear to simulate not only visual elements, but also sensory ones. This means that when players fight, feel pain, or experience hunger, it all feels very real. The consequences of this level of immersion are psychological as well as physical. Characters experience an emotional connection to the game that's rarely seen in traditional gaming worlds. This immersion becomes part of their identity, and breaking free from it becomes just as challenging as the game's physical obstacles. Fact 102. Kirito's evolution throughout Sword Art Online is one of the most significant character arcs in the series. He starts off as a solo player, content to keep his distance from others in order to protect himself from emotional attachment. However, as the story progresses, Kirito learns that true survival in Aincrad requires connection and trust. His relationship with Asuna is the catalyst for this transformation. Their bond strengthens Kirito, teaching him that teamwork, emotional vulnerability, and trust in others are essential for overcoming the game's challenges. His journey from isolation to emotional connection is central to the series' themes of growth and resilience. Fact 103. Asuna's character is equally important in Sword Art Online. While Kirito represents the lone wolf, Asuna exemplifies leadership and strength. She starts as one of the top players in the game, leading her guild, Knights of the Blood, with courage and skill. Over time, she begins to rely more on her emotional connection to Kirito, showing that even the strongest players need support and love. Her character arc involves balancing her duties as a leader with her personal desires, and ultimately, Asuna's journey is one of emotional growth, learning to trust others and embracing vulnerability as a form of strength. Fact 104: the world building in Sword Art Online is a defining feature of the series. Aincrad, with its 100 floors, each with its own ecosystem, is a rich and expansive world. The diversity of the environment, ranging from lush forests to treacherous mountains and mysterious dungeons, adds to the sense of exploration. This vast world not only provides the setting for intense battles, but also serves as a reflection of the emotional and psychological journeys the characters undertake. Each floor, with its unique atmosphere and challenges, mirrors the personal growth of the players as they progress not just through the game, but through their own transformations. Fact 105: Sword Art Online also presents an exploration of virtual reality's potential and its impact on society. The nerve gear technology used in the game, which allows players to fully immerse themselves in a digital world, raises important questions about the ethics of such technology. What happens when the line between the real world and the virtual world becomes blurred? What responsibility do developers and players have when technology can create such immersive, life altering experiences? These questions are central to the series as the characters navigate the consequences of being trapped in a world where every experience feels as real as their physical existence. Fact 106: in Sword Art Online, the theme of freedom versus control is explored through the characters' interactions with the game's creator, Akihiko Kayaba. Kayaba's decision to trap the players inside the game represents a loss of freedom for the characters, who are forced to survive within the confines of his creation. As the players strive to escape, they must confront not only the external obstacles of the game, but also their own sense of agency. The struggle for freedom, both physical and emotional, is at the heart of the series, as the players fight not only for survival, but for control over their own destinies. Fact 107: the guilds in Sword Art Online serve as both a source of strength and a reminder of the fragility of trust. Guilds, like Knights of the Blood and the Moonlit Black Cats, are vital to the player's survival, offering camaraderie and support in a hostile world. However, as the series progresses, it becomes clear that the concept of loyalty is tested within these guilds. Betrayal, loss, and the struggle for power surface, showing that even in a world where survival depends on cooperation, human nature, ranging from trust to treachery, can complicate the bonds between players. Fact 108: while the physical challenges of Sword Art Online are intense, the emotional journey the characters undergo is equally, if not more, significant. Characters like Kirito and Asuna experience profound personal growth as they navigate the dangers of Aincrad. They learn about love, trust, sacrifice, and loss in ways they never expected. The series does not just explore the thrill of combat or the adventure of clearing floors. It delves into the emotional ramifications of living in a virtual world where relationships can become as real as those in the physical world. The emotional struggles of the characters are just as dangerous as the monsters they face. Fact 109: One of the emotional moments in Sword Art Online comes when Kirito and Asuna experience a moment of peace together. Amidst the chaos and danger of the game, they find solace in each other's company. Their relationship becomes a beacon of hope, showing that even in the darkest moments, love and connection can provide a sense of comfort. This theme of finding peace in relationships amidst adversity resonates deeply with viewers, highlighting the importance of emotional connections in overcoming the challenges we face, both in virtual worlds and in real life. Fact 110: a significant aspect of the series is how the players of Sword Art Online deal with the passage of time. In the game, time moves just like in the real world, but the emotional weight of being trapped for extended periods begins to take a toll. Characters' emotional states become deeply affected by the long stretches of time they spend in Aincrad. Relationships evolve, and players begin to question their place in the world. The passing of time becomes symbolic, representing the ever growing tension between the virtual world and the real one, where time is moving forward, but escape seems like an impossible goal. Fact 111: another important facet of Sword Art Online is the relationship between virtual experiences and personal growth. While trapped in Aincrad, players experience personal growth and transformation despite the overwhelming challenges they face. For example, Kirito's shift from a solitary, self reliant individual to a more emotionally open and connected person highlights how the game acts as a crucible for personal development. Even in a world where survival is the primary concern, the virtual environment allows players to confront their fears, their strengths, and their weaknesses in ways they might never have been able to in the real world. Fact 112: the tragic elements of Sword Art Online are also central to its emotional impact. As characters struggle to survive, many are forced to make difficult choices, some resulting in the loss of dear friends and allies. The death of players in SAO is permanent, and this reality weighs heavily on the characters. These losses are not just plot devices, but moments that force the characters to confront the fragility of life and the deep emotional connections they form. Each death serves as a reminder that survival in Aincrad requires more than just combat skills. It requires emotional resilience and strength. Fact 113: as the story unfolds, the characters in Sword Art Online must deal with the growing sense of hopelessness that comes from being trapped in a world where escape seems impossible. At times, the sheer weight of the player's isolation, grief, and fear threatens to overwhelm them. However, the bonds they form with one another provide the strength they needed to continue fighting. This theme of finding hope amidst despair is one of the most powerful elements of the series, showing that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit can find ways to endure and prevail. Fact 114: the deeper psychological layers of Sword Art Online are revealed as the story progresses. The players, at first focused solely on escaping the game, begin to question the very nature of their existence within the virtual world. What happens to their identities if they are trapped for too long? Can they still return to the real world unchanged? The characters wrestle with the philosophical and existential questions that arise from being so deeply embedded in a virtual environment. Their emotional growth is intertwined with these existential challenges, making the series as much about self discovery as it is about survival. Fact 115: The theme of memory and its importance is explored through the characters' experiences in Sword Art Online. As time passes within the game, the player's memories of the real world begin to fade. The longer they are trapped in Aincrad, the more their connection to the outside world weakens. This psychological phenomenon adds an additional layer of tension to the story, as the characters struggle to remember who they were before the game and what they left behind. The series examines how memory shapes our sense of identity and how losing that connection can be just as devastating as losing a loved one. Fact 116. As Kirito and Asuna's relationship evolves, it becomes clear that their love is not just about romance. It is a partnership based on mutual respect, trust, and understanding. Their bond helps them overcome the challenges of Aincrad, providing them with emotional stability and strength. The deepening of their relationship is symbolic of the broader theme in Sword Art Online that survival is not just about fighting physical battles, but about finding meaning and connection in a world that seems determined to break you down. Their love becomes a beacon of hope in a world where hope is in short supply. Fact 117. One of the central themes of Sword Art Online is the idea of choice. The players are given a clear goal: clear the 100th floor to escape the game, but they are also faced with difficult choices along the way. They must decide how to use their time, whether to prioritize their own safety or the safety of others, and what values they are willing to sacrifice for survival. These choices have profound emotional consequences, and as the series progresses, the characters are forced to confront the weight of their decisions and the lives affected by them. This exploration of choice shapes their personal growth. Fact 118. As Sword Art Online progresses, the conflict between the virtual world and the real world becomes more pronounced. The longer the players are trapped in Aincrad, the more their lives in the real world seem like a distant memory. The question of what it means to live in the game, and whether it is any less valid than life outside, becomes a major theme. The characters wrestle with this philosophical dilemma, especially when they begin to form deep emotional attachments to their digital world. The game becomes a surrogate reality, and the concept of escaping is no longer just physical, but emotional. Fact 119. The role of NPCs, non-playable characters, in Sword Art Online adds an interesting layer to the narrative, especially when it comes to the question of what it means to be alive. While the players are conscious and fully aware of their surroundings, the NPCs in Aincrad are technically just programmed characters designed to populate the world with quests and information. However, as the players spend more time in the game, some of these NPCs begin to exhibit behaviors and personalities that seem to transcend their programming. This raises questions about consciousness, identity, and the nature of existence itself, making the world of Aincrad feel even more immersive. Fact 100. Another key aspect of Sword Art Online is the emotional resilience of its characters. Despite the constant threat of death and the psychological toll of being trapped in a virtual world, the characters continue to fight, grow, and form deep connections with one another. This emotional endurance is a testament to the human spirit's capacity to adapt and overcome even the most harrowing circumstances. Kirito, Asuna, and the others learn that survival in Aincrad is not just about physical strength or combat skills, but about the ability to remain emotionally and mentally strong in the face of overwhelming odds. Fact 121. The development of Kirito's character throughout Sword Art Online is one of the most compelling aspects of the series. At the beginning of the story, he is a lone player, keeping to himself and avoiding emotional attachment. However, as he forms relationships with other players, particularly Asuna, Kirito begins to open up and trust others. His evolution from a solitary figure to someone capable of deep emotional connection highlights the series' central theme of personal growth through adversity. Kirito's transformation serves as a reminder that even in the harshest of circumstances, we can change, grow, and learn to rely on others. Fact 122. Asuna's development throughout the series is equally important, as she transitions from a strong, independent leader to someone who learns to trust and depend on others. Initially, Asuna's leadership within the Knights of the Blood Guild represents her strength and determination. However, her relationship with Kirito allows her to explore vulnerability and emotional intimacy. As the series progresses, Asuna begins to realize that true strength doesn't come from leadership alone, but from the ability to connect with others, share emotional burdens, and rely on the people you care about. This transformation adds a deeper layer to her character. Fact 123. The concept of family plays a significant role in Sword Art Online, especially as the characters form close bonds within their guilds. For many of the players, their guild becomes a surrogate family in the absence of their real world connections. The sense of belonging and shared responsibility provides emotional support as they navigate the dangers of Aincrad. However, this idea of family is also challenged by the game's harsh realities, as players are forced to confront betrayal, loss, and the difficulty of maintaining bonds in such an extreme environment. The evolving definition of family is a poignant theme throughout the series. Fact 124. The tension between individuality and teamwork is a central theme in Sword Art Online. In the virtual world of Aincrad, players are faced with the challenge of balancing their desire for independence with the need for cooperation. Kirito, for example, begins as a solo player, but as the story progresses, he learns that teamwork is essential to his survival. This struggle between individuality and teamwork is reflected in the guilds, where the strength of the group often depends on the ability of its members to put aside personal desires for the greater good. The series shows that cooperation is often the key to overcoming challenges. Fact 125. The theme of trust is explored extensively throughout Sword Art Online. As the players navigate Aincrad, they must decide who they can trust and rely on in a world where betrayal is a constant risk. Kirito and Asuna's relationship is built on a foundation of trust, as they learn to depend on each other in the most dangerous of circumstances. However, trust is also tested by the actions of other players, some of whom are motivated by self-interest or a desire for power. The emotional toll of these tests of trust is felt deeply by the characters, adding complexity to their relationships. Fact 126. The concept of death is central to Sword Art Online, not just as a physical event, but as an emotional and psychological experience. In Aincrad, death is permanent, and the players must constantly face the reality that any battle could be their last. The emotional weight of this rule is felt by all the characters, especially as they lose friends and allies along the way. Death in SAO is not just a loss of life, it is a loss of potential, of dreams, and of the emotional bonds that characters have formed with others. The series explores the profound impact of permanent death on the survivors. Fact 127. Throughout Sword Art Online, the player's relationship with the game's environment becomes increasingly complex. While Aincrad is a dangerous and hostile world, it also offers opportunities for growth, exploration, and connection. The characters learn to adapt to their surroundings, using the resources available to them to survive. This interaction with the environment is not just physical, it is emotional as well. As the characters progress through the game, they begin to form deeper attachments to the virtual world, even as they fight to escape it. This dual relationship with the game world highlights the psychological complexity of their situation. Fact 128. The virtual world of Sword Art Online is a place where the characters can reinvent themselves, but it is also a place where their true selves are revealed. In Aincrad, players are given the opportunity to escape from the pressures and constraints of the real world, but they are also forced to confront their deepest fears and desires. Kirito, Asuna, and the other characters are not just playing a game, they are exploring who they are and what they truly value. This exploration of identity is a key theme in the series, showing how the game forces the players to face their innermost selves. Fact 129. The concept of heroism in Sword Art Online is not just about defeating enemies or clearing floors. It's about emotional resilience and the ability to protect those you care about. The true heroes in the story are not always the strongest players, but those who show courage in the face of fear, who sacrifice for others, and who maintain their integrity in a world filled with chaos. Kirito, Asuna, and the other characters demonstrate that heroism is not just about physical prowess, but about emotional strength and the willingness to protect those who are vulnerable. Fact 130. Sword Art Online examines the impact of being trapped in a virtual world, not just on the players, but on the people they left behind. The emotional toll on the families and friends of the trapped players is rarely explored in detail, but it is an important underlying theme. The player's absence creates a ripple effect in the real world, leaving loved ones to cope with the uncertainty and fear of not knowing what has happened to them. This theme underscores the idea that virtual experiences can have real world consequences, and that the emotional impact of the game extends far beyond the digital world. Fact 131. The theme of self sacrifice runs deep in Sword Art Online, as players are faced with situations that force them to choose between their own safety and the safety of others. Kirito, in particular, often finds himself in situations where he must put the well being of his friends and allies before his own. His willingness to put himself at risk for the greater good and the sacrifices he makes along the way highlight his growth from a solitary player to a hero who understands the importance of selflessness. This theme reinforces the emotional depth of the series, showing that true strength often comes from sacrifice. Fact 132. As the series progresses, the players of Sword Art Online face increasingly difficult challenges, both physically and emotionally. The bosses they battle become more powerful, the stakes higher, and the pressure to survive greater. However, it's not just the external threats that they must contend with. The psychological toll of being trapped in Aincrad for so long begins to weigh heavily on many of the characters. Loneliness, despair, and the fear of never escaping the game take their toll on the players and it's only through their relationships with one another that they find the strength to keep going. Fact 133: Sword Art Online also explores the nature of leadership and what it means to lead in a world where every decision could be life or death. Characters like Asuna and Kirito take on leadership roles within their respective guilds, and their journeys are shaped by the responsibility they feel for those under their command. Leadership in SAO is not just about strategy, it's about emotional intelligence, empathy, and the ability to make tough decisions that affect the lives of others. Both Kirito and Asuna are forced to evolve as leaders, learning that true leadership is about balancing strength with compassion. Fact 134: The concept of escape is a central theme in Sword Art Online. The characters are trapped in Aincrad, but they are also trapped by their own emotional baggage and the weight of their pasts. As they progress through the game, they must also confront the parts of themselves that they'd rather leave behind. For many of the players, escaping the game is not just about reaching the 100th floor, it's about confronting their own inner demons and finding a way to heal emotionally. The game becomes a space where the players must not only fight for their lives, but also fight for their emotional freedom. Fact 135: The idea of home in Sword Art Online becomes increasingly significant as the story progresses. For many players, Aincrad becomes a surrogate home, a place where they find belonging, love, and purpose. However, the longing for their real world homes remains a constant undercurrent throughout the series. Kirito and Asuna, despite their growing bond and the relationships they form within the game, never forget their desire to return to the real world. This longing for home serves as a motivator for their actions and underscores the emotional stakes of their journey. The contrast between the virtual and real worlds is stark, yet both are intertwined in the characters' hearts. Fact 136: One of the unique aspects of Sword Art Online is its examination of virtual identity. In Aincrad, players can reinvent themselves, taking on avatars and roles that may be vastly different from their real world selves. Kirito, for example, is a skilled gamer in the real world, but is forced to adapt and grow in ways that challenge his original identity. As characters like Kirito and Asuna immerse themselves in the game, they begin to confront the question of whether their virtual identities are just as valid as their real ones. This exploration of identity highlights the psychological complexities of living in a virtual world. Fact 137: The relationships between the characters in Sword Art Online are central to the story, but so too is the concept of individual growth. Each player must confront their own emotional vulnerabilities and fears in order to survive in Aincrad. Kirito, initially a solitary figure, learns the value of connection and teamwork through his relationship with Asuna and other characters. Asuna, who starts off as a powerful leader, learns that relying on others and embracing vulnerability can be sources of strength. Their emotional growth is mirrored in their evolving relationship, demonstrating that true strength comes from both independence and connection with others. Fact 138: One of the most powerful emotional moments in Sword Art Online occurs when Kirito and Asuna confront the reality of the game's permanence. They are trapped not only in a digital world, but also in a time and place where they cannot escape. Their sense of loss is palpable as they are forced to let go of their previous lives and embrace a new reality. This emotional moment speaks to the larger theme of adaptation, learning to thrive in a world that isn't the one you know and reconciling your identity with the circumstances that you cannot change. Fact 139: Sword Art Online also explores the idea of memory and its role in shaping our perception of reality. As the players become more immersed in Aincrad, their memories of the real world begin to fade. The longer they are trapped, the more their previous lives seem like distant dreams. This erosion of memory is particularly significant for characters who have been in the game for extended periods, as they struggle to maintain a connection to their identities in the real world. The idea that memory shapes who we are and losing it can mean losing ourselves is a poignant theme throughout the series. Fact 140: The final theme explored in Sword Art Online is the idea of hope. Despite the overwhelming odds, the characters continue to fight for their escape, clinging to the belief that one day they will return to the real world. This hope becomes the driving force for many of the characters, providing them with the strength to keep pushing forward, even when the journey seems impossible. Hope, even in the darkest times, is a central theme that underscores the emotional power of the story. The character's journey is not just about surviving Aincrad, it's about holding on to hope even when everything else seems lost. Fact 141: The world of Sword Art Online is defined by a constant tension between freedom and confinement. While the players are technically free to explore the game's vast landscapes, they are constantly reminded that their freedom is not truly their own. The nerve gear, which traps their consciousness in the game, is both a tool for immersion and a prison. This duality is felt deeply by the characters as they strive to escape the world they are trapped in. The struggle to reclaim their freedom becomes not only a physical goal, but an emotional one as well, as the players confront the constraints of their reality. Fact 142: The question of what it means to be alive is a central theme in Sword Art Online. As the characters experience everything from the joys of victory to the agony of loss, they begin to wonder if their experiences in Aincrad are any less real than those in the physical world. This exploration of existence challenges the characters' perceptions of reality and identity. For some, the virtual world becomes more tangible than the one they left behind. This blurring of lines between virtual and real raises profound philosophical questions about what constitutes life and whether digital experiences can have true meaning. Fact 143: While Sword Art Online primarily focuses on the player's struggles within the game, it also explores their emotional responses to the reality of being trapped. For Kirito, a character who initially avoids emotional attachment to protect himself, the game forces him to reevaluate what truly matters. His connection with Asuna becomes a source of strength, showing him the value of love and partnership even in a world where survival is uncertain. Their emotional evolution over the course of the series highlights how deeply personal relationships can shape the course of events and how they help characters endure when everything else seems impossible. Fact 144: The concept of memory plays a significant role in Sword Art Online. As the players are trapped in Aincrad, they begin to lose their memories of the real world. Some characters, particularly those who have been stuck in the game for extended periods, start to forget what their lives were like before the game. This fading of memory represents a deeper emotional loss than simply being trapped in the game. It's a loss of identity. The characters struggle with the fear that in time, they may forget who they are and what they were fighting for. This exploration of memory becomes a powerful narrative tool, showing how time and isolation erode one's sense of self. Fact 145. The guilds in Sword Art Online are central to the storyline, representing both safety and danger in the virtual world. Guilds like Knights of the Blood and the Moonlit Black Cats are essential for the player's survival, offering camaraderie and support in a harsh and dangerous environment. However, guilds also represent the complexity of human nature. Trust, loyalty, and betrayal are recurring themes as the players navigate the social dynamics of the game. Some guild members are motivated by the desire to escape at any cost, while others struggle with personal motives, revealing that in Aincrad, survival isn't just about fighting, it's about emotional resilience and moral integrity. Fact 146. As Sword Art Online progresses, the player's emotional connections to the game become more pronounced. The game becomes more than just a virtual environment. It becomes a surrogate reality for those trapped within it. The emotional weight of their interactions with one another and the bonds they form are what keep them fighting. Relationships between characters like Kirito and Asuna, and the friendships formed within guilds, become the driving force that helps the characters push forward, even when the path ahead seems impossible. The game world may be artificial, but the emotions and connections that players experience within it are very real, underscoring the story's emotional depth. Fact 147. One of the most significant philosophical themes in Sword Art Online is the idea of choice. The players are presented with a goal: escape the game. But their journey is not just about reaching that goal, it's about the choices they make along the way. Kirito or Asuna and others must decide who to trust, whether to prioritize personal safety or the well being of others, and how to balance their sense of duty with their emotional needs. The series emphasizes that even in a virtual world, choices matter. Every decision shapes the player's emotional journeys and determines the course of their fate. Fact 148. The emotional growth of Kirito and Asuna is pivotal to the heart of Sword Art Online. Both characters begin the series with emotional barriers that they must overcome in order to survive in Aincrad. Kirito starts off as a loner, distrustful of others, and hesitant to form deep emotional bonds. Asuna, while initially a strong and independent player, carries the weight of her responsibilities and often struggles to balance her leadership duties with her personal desires. Over the course of the series, both characters learn the importance of trust, love, and emotional vulnerability, ultimately growing into stronger, more resilient individuals. Fact 149. Throughout Sword Art Online, the theme of self-identity is explored, particularly in the context of how the characters' virtual experiences shape their perceptions of who they are. While trapped in Aincrad, the players can reinvent themselves through their avatars, adopting new skills, looks, and roles. For some, this becomes an opportunity to escape their real-world limitations, while for others, it becomes a challenge to maintain their true selves. Kirito, in particular, struggles with reconciling his virtual identity as a solo player with his growing emotional connections to those around him. This theme highlights the complexity of identity, both in virtual and real spaces. Fact 150. A crucial turning point in Sword Art Online comes when Kirito faces the truth that escaping Aincrad is not simply about defeating bosses or clearing floors. It's about confronting the emotional scars that have built up over time. His internal journey becomes just as important as the external one. As Kirito grows emotionally, he begins to understand that the key to surviving in Aincrad lies not in strength alone, but in his ability to form connections with others, accept help, and open his heart to love and trust. This realization shifts the focus from mere survival to finding meaning and connection in a world that often feels devoid of hope. Fact 151: the Knights of the Blood Guild is one of the central groups in Sword Art Online, and it plays a significant role in both the plot and the development of its characters. As the most powerful guild in Aincrad, it represents the strength and unity needed to clear the game's most difficult floors. However, the guild also serves as a reflection of the pressures and emotional costs of leadership. Asuna, as a leader, must navigate the responsibilities of her position while also dealing with the emotional toll of being in a high stakes, life or death situation. Her role within the guild shapes much of her emotional growth. Fact 152: the concept of hope is woven throughout Sword Art Online as the characters continue to fight against overwhelming odds. Despite the odds stacked against them, the players cling to the hope that they can escape Aincrad and return to their lives. This hope is not just a passive feeling, it is a driving force that keeps the characters moving forward even when they are faced with despair. Hope gives them the strength to continue fighting, even when it seems impossible. This theme underscores the emotional heart of the series, that even in the most hopeless situations, hope can provide the will to survive. Fact 153: one of the deeper emotional layers in Sword Art Online lies in the exploration of loss and how the characters cope with it. As the players progress through Aincrad, they face the inevitable loss of allies, friends, and even loved ones. These deaths are permanent, making them emotionally devastating. However, the characters are forced to learn how to move forward in the face of such loss. The series shows that while loss is a painful part of life, it also serves as a catalyst for growth and emotional resilience. The ability to keep going despite the pain is what makes the characters truly heroic. Fact 154: the emotional depth of Sword Art Online is often highlighted by the characters' internal conflicts. Kirito, in particular, faces a constant struggle between his instinct to remain isolated and his growing need for connection with others. At the beginning of the story, Kirito prefers to fight alone, distancing himself from others to avoid the emotional toll of losing companions. However, as he forms relationships with players like Asuna, Klein, and others, he begins to understand the importance of trusting others and forming bonds. This internal struggle between independence and emotional connection is central to Kirito's development and emotional growth throughout the series. Fact 55: the concept of escape in Sword Art Online becomes increasingly complex as the characters realize that leaving Aincrad is not simply about clearing floors or defeating bosses. As they move through the game, they come to understand that their emotional and psychological states are just as important to their survival as their physical abilities. The game is not just a physical battle, it is a mental and emotional one. Kirito, Asuna, and the others must learn how to escape not only the game, but the emotional prison they have created for themselves by confronting their fears, doubts, and desires. Fact 156: one of the key emotional elements of Sword Art Online is the theme of personal growth. The characters in the game are forced to grow in ways that they never could have anticipated. For Kirito, this growth comes through learning to trust and rely on others, particularly Asuna. For Asuna, it comes through learning to balance her role as a leader with her own personal desires and relationships. Through these experiences, both Kirito and Asuna evolve emotionally and psychologically, showing that true growth comes not just from external accomplishments, but from the internal journey of confronting one's weaknesses and fears. Fact 157. The idea of human connection is central to the story of Sword Art Online. Despite being trapped in a virtual world, the characters form deep emotional bonds with one another. These connections become essential to their survival, as they provide the emotional strength needed to face the constant danger of the game. Kirito and Asuna's relationship, in particular, becomes a symbol of the power of love and trust. Their growing bond is a reminder that even in the darkest of times, human connection can provide the strength to endure. In a world where everything is uncertain, their love is a constant source of hope. Fact 158. The emotional struggles of the characters in Sword Art Online are further emphasized by their interactions with the NPCs in the game. These non playable characters are designed to serve the storylines of the players, providing quests, information, and challenges. However, as the players spend more time in the game, they begin to develop relationships with the NPCs, who seem to become more complex and lifelike. This blurring of the lines between real and virtual becomes a key theme, raising questions about the nature of consciousness, identity, and what it means to be truly alive, even in a digital world. Fact 159. One of the central struggles in Sword Art Online is the characters' need to balance their desire for freedom with the reality of their situation. While the players are constantly striving to escape Aincrad, they also find themselves emotionally tethered to the world they have come to know. For some, this means developing relationships that they begin to value more than their escape. The characters' emotional journeys are as much about finding peace and meaning within the game as they are about seeking to escape it. This emotional complexity adds depth to their survival, making their struggle about more than just defeating enemies. It's about finding purpose. Fact 160. The ultimate theme of Sword Art Online is the power of hope and resilience. Despite the overwhelming odds, the players continue to fight for their freedom, never giving up on the possibility of escaping Aincrad and returning to their lives. The series shows that even in the face of despair, hope can still drive the characters forward. Kirito, Asuna, and the others learn that true survival is not just about overcoming physical obstacles, but about maintaining hope and emotional resilience. Their journey is a testament to the strength of the human spirit, and it leaves the audience with a powerful message of perseverance, love, and hope. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the world of Sword Art Online. As you drift into your peaceful rest, may the themes of hope, resilience, and the power of human connection stay with you. Just like Kirito and Asuna, remember that no matter the challenges you face, the strength to overcome them lies within you. Sleep well, with your heart at peace and your mind at ease. Good night.